So we move on to the next scene. While Porco is going, lost in his own fantasies, the air pirates are working hard. This is the scene where we find out who the female students really are. Dabohaze lands on the water. Dabohaze is the name of Mama Yuto's seaplane. Dabohaze smashes into the water when they make a splashdown, like boom! Is there a model of a seaplane? Oh, there it is. I hope it doesn't break. We don't have the exact model of Dabohaze, so we'll use one with a similar shape. So you see, instead of landing quietly like this, Dabohaze smashes on the surface of the water like this. Splash! It is said that the German seaplane called Dornier was the model of Dabohaze. And this Dornier is, I think, a DOJ type. 2 engines in front and back. And the wing-like extension, called sponson, is similar to that of a Dornier. Some people say it's a giant version of a Dornier, but Mama Yuto couldn't have afforded that. I think they modified the neck and made it look like an airship. It has been modified in so many ways that it's hard to imagine the original shape. This sponson under the main wing is the major feature. Sponson is like, it's like a short wing with a float that balances the ship when it lands on the water. Mama Yuto always makes a dramatic splashdown by creating a dynamic splash, because the sponson causes a ground effect near the water surface. It's called the ground effect. So, for example, the plane's floating power temporarily spikes near the surface. Have you ever seen the human bird contest in Biwa Lake? The people in the gliding category fly right above the water surface. They intentionally maintain low altitude so that they can utilize the ground effect. If you fly about a meter above the water surface, a drone of that size that you see in Biwa Lake, oh sorry, not a drone, a glider, can easily fly by using the ground effect. If they fly 5 meters or 10 meters above the sea level, they'd lose the ground effect and lose the floating power. Since Dabohaze's sponson is too big, it generates too much lift. If you have a sponson right close to the water surface, just like this biplane here, it causes the ground effect. So, seaplanes or any biplanes with the wings at the bottom are extremely difficult to land, because it causes the ground effect as it gets near the surface. It keeps flying and won't land. There have been many cases where planes lost speed and stalled. So it's always better to smash into the water surface when you land. During World War II, when planes landed on carriers, they didn't land from the side. Instead, they came down from above and almost dropped on the deck. That was another way to avoid the ground effect. So this type of plane was difficult to land. It tended to float and land further ahead due to the ground effect. So the pilots intentionally dropped the plane on the water. Mama Yuto might have tried to utilize the resistance from the water to stop right in front of the ship. As you can see, Mama Yuto is busy working. Meanwhile, Porco is completely unaware that he's about to rescue little kids instead of female students. So Porco triumphantly gets on his plane, Savoia. He walks along the pier and gets on his plane while avoiding the rear wing. Take a look at these two pictures and compare the two. Look at the propeller next to the cockpit. The propeller on the picture below is very close to the water surface. So the plane sinks as Porco gets on the plane because of his weight, and the drought gets deeper. It is a subtle description, but I think Miyazaki does it beautifully. Porco avoids the rear wing because he's too fat and doesn't have enough space to walk. He skillfully maintains his balance to avoid obstacles. This behavior is extremely human. The depiction of the Savoia sinking as Porco steps in captures the physics of the situation. Miyazaki is completely in control of both human element and the physics in this single cut. That's why this scene looks so real. You can see the same level of accuracy in the characters in the anime film in this corner of the world. But in this case, Miyazaki combines the human and the inanimate to great effect. It looks so real that you feel like you want to go there. After Porco gets on the Savoia, he turns the crank handle really fast. You hear a heavy whirring sound, and Porco steps on the lever with his foot to turn on the engine. This handle he's turning is like a gigantic version of a flywheel. It's made of iron or steel. I'm not sure about the material, but basically you turn this flywheel sufficiently until you have enough rotational energy. And then you step on the lever to transfer the energy to the engine. So I guess you could say it's like a manual self-starter in a car. The reason why Porco uses his foot to move the lever is because usually this is an engineer's job, not his. Engineers do that kind of thing. But since he always attacks the air pirates by himself, he's gotten used to being alone. So much so that he has even started using his foot. Maybe he felt frustrated in the beginning, but he must have gotten used to it. The engine starts and releases a huge amount of smoke, which chokes him after he fastens his seatbelt. Porco's small propeller begins to rotate. Here. It's the propeller here. The propeller begins to rotate and Porco fastens his seatbelt. In the pre-lecture, I explained that this is a pump that lifts the fuel. But an acquaintance of mine told me, well, the reason why I said it was a windmill type pump is because it says so in this book, Art of Porco Rosso. And it even says windmill type pump in the storyboard. So I simply believed it. But to be precise, this is called a dynamo, a kind of generator. The big propeller rotates and activates the smaller one. Like a bicycle dynamo, it generates a tiny amount of energy when rotated by wind. When the electricity surges, it starts the motor in the pump. In other words, you run the motor by lifting the fuel from the fuel tank inside Savoia.